Cool. We are back with the normal crew here. Steve and Ricardo held it down. It's probably a good note for last week. Um, we didn't have anything recorded here, so we're recording today. We usually like delay it like a week, so we'll record on Friday and then it'll get uploaded the following Friday. I'm going to try and get this uploaded today or tomorrow. That way we don't have a delay of a week here.
Right on, right on. Yeah, it's tough, man. When things get busy, it's just like,
Yeah,
especially when we have like a dedicated time that happens, and then just gets switched out, and you're like, oh man,
no doubt.
yeah,
No doubt. So Steve and I, we were chatting a little bit earlier in the week around essentially a couple leads pulling through to C42 guys' site through an LLM and how ChatGPT has influenced some actual leads. So, Steve, I think just to tee things up, you were going to show maybe like a little sleuthing that you did on your end to confirm where they came from. And yeah, dude, it's just cool because it's been like it seems like 2 years now of like, is ChatGPT or LLMs going to eat search? Is this going to be like the new lead gen and business driver? Not saying that's the case just yet, still, but it's cool to see like some initial results and how they provide you guys some business.
yeah. No, for sure. It's been really interesting because we don't get a tremendous amount of traffic into our website, so I can see, I almost track almost every user that comes into the site real time if they have the ability to track it. They're not blocking cookies or ad blockers. And, it's like maybe 60, 70% pretty accurate.
How are you doing that, by the way? When you're like, hey, I do
Yeah.
this real time. What are you
So
using a
I've
tool?
got a couple different systems set up. One is the our B2B
Yep.
software, which if anybody doesn't know it, it's they you load a script onto your site and then they notify you that hey, they think this person's on your website, and it's real time. We have like a Slack integration, um, and I
And it
would
pings
say
the LinkedIn profile to your Slack to be like, hey, so and so's
yeah. So
on
it tells
site.
you like hey, someone came in from this source. We think it's this person from this company, and then they link to the LinkedIn. It's like 50-50. What will like it's 50-50. Is it the actual right LinkedIn profile? They might get the right company but the wrong person. I've
That's
seen
what I was
that
gonna say.
happen.
The company seems pretty accurate for the most part. It's just
Yeah, I'd say
who.
company maybe is at like 75, 65%.
Yep.
The actual person that comes in, you're dude, yeah, maybe we get a match 30 to 40%
Yeah.
of the
Yeah.
time for it all. And so it's interesting because that's my first kind of clue, like, oh, I have someone real time on my website, and I want to kind of track back to, well, hey, how do they come into the site? So I actually have Google Analytics real time dashboard up on one screen, so I can see that, and you can click through and kind of see what traffic sources are in there for individual users. It's a little difficult to see, but the one that I really use a lot more is the analytics system, PWIK, PIWIK, PIWIK .pro, so PWIX Pro.
Pewick. Yeah.
Yeah, and so
That's
they
a
have a
tough
really
name there.
yeah, no shit. They have a really nice session log viewer that you can actually see the actual sessions coming in, and you can see their journey of every individual that comes into the site, as long as they can be tracked. You can see what they've done. They have a feature that's pretty much like a real-time bug tracker, and so you can actually see that user on the site. So if you came to my site right now, Trevor, I could actually see what pages you're on, like real time. But it'll give you traffic sources, like where they came from, the campaign name, was it direct, was it organic, was it paid, etc. And so I can kind of see real time between those three platforms. I can get a real good sense. This is a Google organic, someone that came in. This was a direct traffic, or this
So
was a referral.
the what is it? What's that tool called?
PWIX Pro?
Pewix.
Yeah.
Are they just saying, hey, like there's a session that's happening? It's not like an IP address or like
No, they
an
have
individual
they
or
no, it's an individual. Like it's an individual, anonymized individual. So there's an IP
so it
address
is
that's collected.
anonymized. Yep.
It is anonymized. They give it a unique user ID, visitor ID, and they track through it. Google Analytics Universal used to have a feature like this too, I don't think it's in GA4, but this is just way more intuitive to use. And you can actually see that visitor come through. If we had a lot of traffic on our website, it'd be really difficult to kind of sort through it all. I mean, you still can, but like real time, I get a feeling of like how this person individually came into the website,
So
and the
you're
different
using
marketing opportunities.
PWix along with our B2B and GA4, putting all those together to get a
Mm-hmm.
good insight of who came through the site and what their journey looked like. And then
Correct.
are you waiting for that RB2B ping to then refresh to see in real time like GA4 and PWix? Or you just like have these three tabs going on one screen at all times and you're just like
It's a little
every
bit
once
of
in a while looking
combination of
over?
it all. It's a little bit
Okay.
of combination of all. If I do get the notification through RB2B, I'll look like right away because it's like, hey, it's a push notification. Otherwise, I have actually the screen up, and I'll just hit refresh once in a while and see
That's
what's
amazing.
there. I'm just like super curious on what's coming through on the site for it all. But I started to notice, people coming into our website with just direct search, like, or not, sorry, direct search, just direct traffic coming in the site. I'm like, most of the time, direct traffic is going to be like a bot, or they don't know where they tracked it from, or they know about you. We're not a huge brand. We don't have a lot of popularity. So when I see someone from direct traffic in Texas coming directly in,
Be
that's a
like,
little
now
weird.
did they know about
And it's
us? It's
and
like,
it's a
yeah,
legit user. It's not a bot. You're like,
yeah,
how did they find out about us, right?
yeah,
Like
yeah.
that's a little odd. Or you would see a Google search comes across for our homepage, which is going to be a branded term, of Collective 42. I'm like, well, how did they go and say, I want to go search Google for Collective 42, click on our website, and then come visit? I have also noticed, and I track this is another thing I track, not on a daily, but I look at it, every other couple of days, is Google Search Console. We can see obviously what organic traffic's coming in. And I have seen an uptick of more branded searches for Collective 42. So I'm like, what's driving more searches for our brand? Sure, we've been around, you know, we have this podcast, we do a little bit of LinkedIn, just like, but that's not, I don't think is going to really drive the demand. So I think there's a portion of that increase of direct traffic and branded organic search traffic that is coming from ChatGPTs or LLMs like Copilot, Perplexity, etc. And I say that because we have had leads come through that we ask them, hey, where did you come back from? Because typically I can tell when I'm on a call. It's kind of like my way of like showing like, hey, we're pretty good at marketing. I can tell how you came to us. And then there's other ones I'm like, I don't know how you came through. I see you came through, but like, how did you learn about us? And we've had these individuals say that they've done some kind of like longer tail prompts of like, hey, I'm interested in a website development agency or design agency that is really good in the med tech device space. Or they put another niche in there of like defense contractor space, and we appear. I do those sorts of prompts. I don't see it showing up for my own ChatGPT. I can't get it to kind of trigger, which that's the challenge with ChatGPT. Everybody uses a very unique kind of prompt or query to get their research, so you can't kind of reverse engineer it to see what's happening. We also had someone use Copilot that was looking for like a nimble, smaller agency that does investor relations website services, which we do. We have a landing page for it. And we came through, and it was actually a really good, quality leads. And all the leads have been super quality because it's exactly what they were looking for it all. Now, it doesn't come in as referral traffic, like when you click on a link and you'll see like a UTM referral of like ChatGPT. Because a lot of times these search queries in ChatGPT do not actually have a hyperlink out to the website that they're referring to. So what do people have to do? That's where this whole attribution stops. And it's like that zero-click marketing rule or conversation. They have to copy and paste and put it into Google and try to find Collective 42, or they load the website and go to it. And that's what we're seeing come in.
Yeah, I think a lot of people probably can, in this space and in analytics and paid media, probably can relate to that piece of, like it's tricky to really get an understanding. Like you're obviously gonna like show us, do like a little screen share of like how you can back into that potentially, but that is a really tricky thing to know the true impact of those LLMs because exactly that. It's not always they don't always provide a hyperlink, or it's not very obvious that it's a link to click on. And I feel like most people aren't really trained or think to in ChatGPT or another LM to click that link to go directly to a site. So a lot of time there is then that Google search. So then you could probably see a lead came through as like an organic lead or paid search lead that like in theory probably could have just been an LLM lead, you know? That piece is really tricky there.
Yeah, the only thing that people have talked about right now to how to track, people, how often people are actually interacting with your brand on ChatGPT is setting up like a referral traffic report for anything with referral of ChatGPT or Copilot, etc. There's a handful of parameters that you can put into GA4 to kind of create a report, but it's really underwhelming. Like if I do that for me, I see like one or two referral links over, and it's not these individuals
Yeah.
um, themselves. So
So you're
there
missing
will
a
be
ton
some
there.
leading. There's a missing a ton there, and so let's say you amplify the amount of traffic that comes into your website in this case scenario, what would that leading indicator be? The only thing I can think of is that you might see less organic traffic come in to your website. And when I say organic, I would say let me clarify less non-branded organic traffic coming into your website. A possible increase in organic branded traffic coming into your website and an increase in direct visits. And somewhere in between those two are these individuals that are interacting with LLMs.
Yeah.
That's the best way you could look at it, trend it out, but it's more of a feel. And looking at the data, it's not going to be super concrete for it all, but maybe it's something over trend over time. So if you do see more non-branded traffic decreasing, well, maybe these individuals are spending more time on LLMs rather than a Google search to find you. But
The
that's a
other
good.
thing too
Go ahead.
to maybe note as well would probably be like your website conversion rate. Like say if you just measure like form fills on your site, if you're seeing because in this world, in a sense, like you're probably going to get a little bit less volume from organic. So maybe like some of those initial sessions of like just doing some research, you might lose those. But the people and sessions that are on your site are more qualified, more researched, more likely to submit the form. So naturally, you would see an uptick in conversion rate there as well. That's probably like an indicator, especially if you haven't made like a ton of updates on your site, and then all of a sudden, over the last couple of months, you've seen like a little uptick in form submissions or just general uptick in conversion rate. That might also be like a little indicator there as well.
Yeah, I would definitely say so. But then some people might say, well, hey, SEO is not as important, specifically non branded SEO. And I would say, no, it's actually more important than ever. The reason being is that, and this is just specifically ChatGPT, and we're going to get into this a little bit more detail. And I think Ricardo might be doing a blog post on this at some point, which we'll link to out on it. Is that when you search for, let's say, I'm looking for a web design agency that is hyper focused in the military industrial industry, ChatGPT will reference their own database that they have collected. I think it's based from like 2024. But if they need new stuff, which primarily they do, you're going to see a quick little searching action that's happening. Where the fuck are they searching? They actually go out to search engines like Google and Bing, and they do searches. Primarily, it's Google, according to the conversation I had with ChatGPT when I got into this with them. And they are going and doing searches on Google, and they were looking at what shows up in the search results. Theoretically, and what they've said, according to ChatGPT, I've got the whole prompt response here. It's pretty wild. They skip ads, and they look at the organic section, and they see what's there. And they go up to a couple of pages. I think they were referencing it in here, like up to, if you're in like the top 30, you're going to be considered as part of something to look at in there. So you don't have to have the top 10 rankings in this scenario, but it's still, you need that SEO organic rankings for non-branded keywords to do well in LLMs. That's one part of how they figure out how to provide the recommendation in ChatGPT. That's one part of it. So they do searches. So that whole point of like, hey, doing SEO is not important more. No, they're still very reliant on what shows up in Google. So you have to still be doing SEO.
So you still need to do it. Yeah.
Yeah. And so what's interesting is that I went down this rabbit hole with ChatGPT. I think I was using 4.5. Um, and I was doing, and the whole way that it started, I was looking for a service. Um, it was for like a call answering service for us, like someone that would be a live chat that we could get a phone number for them. If someone calls us, someone could take a message, a live person, and you know, that's the way that we can manage our phone services for ourselves to start off with. Because right now we have like my cell phone up there, which I don't answer at all because I block anything that's spam. So I'm
Yeah.
like, hey, let's get like a business number, blah, blah, blah. So I was looking for a service like that. So I asked ChatGPT to find me that. And I had a service I used previously in mind. And I was curious to see if they would show up. They didn't show up. So I asked them, like, well, hey, why did this brand not show up? And it starts to give me some information. And so I then start cracking into them, like, well, how do you go about doing? What are you doing? Why are you searching? Or how are you doing this? And I kind of basically back out the algorithm, their algorithm on how they rank things in ChatGPT. Now, it could be completely biased, and ChatGPT is just trying to facilitate answering my question because that is something that is skewed, especially with ChatGPT. Um, I don't know if it's confirmation bias, but maybe you've noticed it, Trevor. Like they're always trying to satisfy your search or your prompt.
I was just
Even
gonna
if,
say that. I think that's probably like a huge factor here is I've definitely noticed that as well. And like if you use, ChatGPT, you could then like give it thumbs up for certain things, thumbs down. Like you're giving it feedback, you're interacting with it, and then it has a memory there. So I would assume over time that thing gets pretty good at like catering a response to what you prefer. And that's what makes this like really tricky is like what you get in a response could be totally different than what I get in a response. You kind of have to kind of like directionally take their feedback, if you will.
yeah, and I wasn't sure if, me asking these questions, they're just making up bullshit and this is how they do it. But it was very, very detailed on the responses back on what they look at it. So I asked them, like, well, what do you look at when you do a Google search? They say they read the titles, they read the description of the top links. They actually look at Google AI overviews for quick context. It's not like the number one thing they look for. Um, and so they look below AI overviews and real websites links, and then they actually go to the websites according to this and say, and actually look and ingest that information. So they're using like Google as kind of like the data aggregator for these items to understand what's out there.
It's crazy to think that you could ask a question and then like a brand question, like call centers, and then it goes and it scans the search results page, like the top three pages essentially, AI overviews if there is one present, and then potentially 30 different websites content. Like how the hell that happens that quickly to get you a response is is just insane to think about. You know what I mean? Like just that alone is just pretty crazy.
Yeah, and I was asking like, well, does it matter? Like, do you like where I show up in the organic results? Does that weight how you score things? And they're like, yeah, it does. Let's say if you're the first organic result, maybe that's like 30% weighting. Your second and third, you get 20%. So it's kind of got this kind of tiered system down, which makes sense. But it kind of stops at 30, which was interesting.
So what was
Um,
this weighting system? What did they say?
so it's all about building a trust score in ChatGPT to get you kind of in the results. I believe I've asked this before too to ChatGPT. Let's say they give you back 5 results for a query. They're not ranked from top to bottom. Like the number one is not the highest one. It's they say it's an anonymous mix of their top five thrown in there. But just to be eligible for those top fives, you need to meet a certain trust score.
Kind of like
Uh,
Google's like, eat or whatever.
yeah, it's like their own kind of algorithm behind it, but it's like this trust score. The higher you are, then the higher chances you will rank in ChatGPT. And this is according to the conversation. I'm not claiming this is completely right. I just
Sure.
thought it was fascinating that this came across Maybe it is totally right, but I'm not going to be that fucking guy that goes on LinkedIn like, I have the fucking algorithm of how to rank in ChatGPT, blah, 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 blah. I'm telling you, this is what it fucking told me. And anecdotally, based on what I'm seeing in my own experience, I can see, okay, this feels kind of right. So
No
it's about
doubt.
this trust score. Let me share my screen real quick because this is the conversation. If someone wants a copy of this, I will fucking send this over to you. I don't care. Let's see. Screen. Window. Yeah, this should work. Or should I do tab? I don't know. Full process. This will work. Okay. This is a long ass thread that I had with ChatGPT. But this is how they accumulate their trust score. So it is the base weight from position times the multiplier for quality factors plus bonuses and penalties. It's like, huh. I didn't ask for some sort of like crazy like math equation, but it's pretty amazing what it came back. And literally it says the trust score I internally build for search results is not a singular form, but it's a layered scoring system that looks like this. I'm like, okay, interesting. I've never seen anything kind of push out like this. And like, what is this weight based on positions? So let's say this is how you calculate for your position based. It's kind of like I mentioned before, like, hey, if you're a position 1, you get a certain credit amount, and then as you go down, you get less amount of percentage. They use, I guess, a log algorithm to do that, which I don't know anything about. But let's just say, like, I guess the example here was, yeah, your first result, you get 30% weighting. Let's just call them points, like 30 points. Your second 30, you get 20 points, etc. Makes sense. And it's interesting the notes that they have here. Like, hey, if you're in 7th and 10th, possibly you're hidden gem or niche players, but less automatically trusted. The other one they look at, let's say if you're on like the second page, only scanned if necessary, much lower baseline unless something special flags them. Those are the special flags. That's the other part of the algorithm that's very interesting. And then they'll maybe look at 20th, 30th, very low trust score, but maybe if they've got verification elsewhere or government, they say verified or unless reputation domains. So it's like, interesting.
So it's like essentially top 10 results are kind of the most important here.
Yeah, being in the top 10 is going to be good. But you still got a chance in page 2 or 3, which I think is really interesting because to get into the top 10 for some competitive keywords is very difficult to do in Google. Can it be done? Yes. Just going to take a long time to get there. I've done it. We're actually starting to see that. So there is a correlation. Doesn't mean causation. That with some of our niche pages for website development in defense industry, manufacturing, and medtech are starting to rank some on the first page, some on the second or third page in the last couple of months. So it aligns when we've seen this surge. So we're starting to be popped in from a trust score perspective.
Interesting. Okay.
So that's why I'm kind of like seeing some of this. I'm like, oh crap, that's happening to me. That's happening to us.
Yep.
So we keep moving on here. Let's look at the next part of the formula, which is multipliers for quality factors. So multipliers come from page quality, freshness, and authority and structure. We'll get into that in a second. The next one is bonus and penalties. So bonuses are positives or negative adjustments for very strong or bad signals. So let's look at the multipliers real quick. So multipliers, here's things that they possibly look at. Domain authority. Now, it's not domain authority like, who has domain authority? Ahrefs, like the tool, like PageRank kind of thing. It's what they call domain authority. I got this broken down, but it's more of like looking at like your individual brand or your TLD. Is it a .gov, .edu, etc.? Next thing they look at is freshness. So has it been updated? Interesting. Is there structured data presented, like schema markup? They look at that. Does the site load fast? Is there keyword intent? They look for spam signals like over-optimized or keyword stuffing and kind of duplicated or boilerplate content. So this is, I would say, like your quality is like your on-page kind of, like what's going on here. Is your site authoritative? Does it load fast? Or you've got fresh content on there? Is your code good from a structured standpoint?
This seems like very like standard Googly.
Yeah, you would
SEO
do it anyways
stuff.
from an SEO stuff to get it done. You know,
Yep.
But it's like, hey, if you don't have structured markup data on your website, you probably should do it. Something they look at, right? So the bonuses and penalties. This is where I think I've seen some pushes through. So verified third-party review present. That's a very strong signal. Let's say you're on the second or third page and your trust score is not that high, but another website that you have reviews on shows your brand. That can be a multiplier that helps you increase your trust score. So how do you get verified third-party review websites? Well, e-commerce sites, that makes sense. But in local business, you have like your Google My Business, etc., Yelp, Facebook. Get those reviews going. Us individually, we are on a couple different directories, like marketing directories, and we have good reviews there that they do reference for us as a checkpoint. So doing like a third-party directory listing and actually having reviews is helping us in theory, from what I'm seeing.
Makes sense. They're like, hey, this site is listed on so and so directory, and there's a couple clients that said they did good work here. Probably pretty good signal. Like, hey, they're legit. Let's send them their way.
Yes. And I also think other times your brand is mentioned on other websites, like maybe it's like a write-up, like they said, like, top San Diego website development companies, and we got highlighted. And it doesn't have to be a link, just like a PR mention almost. That can help as well, because they can understand, like, hey, this. So that's something I think Google's always dreamed about putting in their algorithm, because they're so dependent on backlinking, and we can get into that. But if they could remove the backlink thing and just your brand presence score online, getting other websites to mention you is a good thing. So like PR efforts seem to help here if you can get that content out there. Sure, there's ways you could game it, and we can get into that, or try to game it. But like getting your brand out there listed on other websites is important. And if you're like a local business, like making sure all your local profiles are filled out, name, likeness, that's all going to help in your Google map optimization. But here, it could help as well. So it's like, okay, makes sense. Next one was like inconsistent title, meta, URL mismatch. The definition of that one, it's down in here later. It's like if I go to the page and the title and the information mismatched to what the actual content is, it's like, whoa. I'm not going to trust you on that. It's basically like if you mess up the optimization on the page, they're not going to do it. They also talk about like excessive ad or pop-ups detected. No idea how they do that, but they say that it's there, which makes sense. That's something like in Google's algorithm. Poor mobile usability. And then they have this other one, extreme high relevance to the question, human sensed. We could dig into that and see what it is. I'm not 100% sure off the top of my mind. So it's like this algorithm score is like T equals P times M plus B. That's it. And they give them this kind of calculation of how you would calculate it all together, blah, 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 blah. So I was like, oh, that's really interesting. So I did ask it, like, well, what are all these things that you're talking about? Like, what is a domain multiplier authority? So it talks about it. They don't actually like crawl their backlinks at all. It looks for signals from known brands. Will automatically get a boost. The freshness multiplier, schema markup, we talked about all these. What was the ones that we weren't sure about? Match keyword, match relevance, spam penalty. Where was that one? Exceptional relevance bonus. I don't know, it's human judge or semantic match score of 90%. So is this page exactly answering the user's questions in a concise, factual, expert way? That's what they call that. So I mean, all these things, it's really interesting. I could see someone trying to sell this as a standalone service. Like, we do this. Problem is, how do you track any of this? That's the hard part. How do you track how much increases did you have? It's like we said at the very beginning of this conversation, it's almost impossible to do so.
I was just going to say, like, exactly that. Like, you got to really just get trust from the client of, like, it's going to be hard to attribute, hey, we got way more sessions from Perplexity or whatever, but over time, you got more business on your website, and, like, just really entrusting in the process.
Yeah, one thing that I'm going to update, I got to talk to Ricard about this, but I don't think we have it on our forms, but any of your clients' websites that have form fill, especially for like lead gen, we've worked with this client, with this Trevor too, with clients, is that we tend to like to have, for our own marketing reasons, a field of like, how did you hear about us, right? And we'll have like Google search, we'll have LinkedIn, we'll have like a friend, or I already knew about you, or email.
Yeah.
Which field do you think we should be adding to that now?
Yeah, I feel like LLM or AI is like a no-brainer at this point, you
Yeah,
know.
you could be like ChatGPT or something similar, right? Because I don't think even a lot of people that are using it know like they're using an LLM kind of thing.
I was gonna say LLM might be like a little
They're like, what?
tough.
What the fuck is that? Like
What
it's
is
just like
that? Yeah,
ChatGPT or something similar.
or something like it.
I
Yeah,
want to add that to my contact form because then we would then understand when people come through and fill something out. They have self-opted, raised their hands. This is where it came from. That's probably the only way by a consent given. Here's how I found you
for sure.
uh, to do it. And I think a lot of times people forget about that on the marketing perspective because it's so hard to track attribution, especially this now, man. It was getting difficult to track attribution before ChatGPT. Now, dude, it is out the window. You
It's
just have
so
to go like
directional.
it's just like I don't know, man. Like I guess it's like the analogy of like working out or getting healthy. You have to do a lot of different things to get to a good result, but you just can't pin it on one thing. You know,
100%.
like
Yep.
was it my supplements? Was it my diet? Was it my exercise routine? You kind of got to do it all. Otherwise, you're not going to be ultimate performing. You know what I'm saying? Maybe you
No
can get by
doubt.
without doing one of the others, which you can kind of make that analogy on the marketing side of things. But it's so hard to give attribution to these items of impact.
I know, and I saw Google just like push back their cookie date, which I feel like they're probably just going to eventually be like, "Hey, we're never removing cookies because it's impossible to figure out tracking without it." Um, I got a bunch of like just random like follow-up thoughts here, and
Yeah, yeah.
um,
Sorry, I know I went for a long rant there, but I wanted to get through it.
no, that was sick. I think that was like such a good overview and a really cool understanding of how to potentially track a form submission or attribution from an LLM, and then that was an awesome overview of how to potentially rank in an LLM. I think the one thing that I just always come back to is like after that whole review and explanation from you, Steve, I don't know how that's any different than how SEO has been. You know what I mean? Like there wasn't anything in there that stands out as like, wow, this is a major shift. This seems like if you were
Yeah,
doing best practices in SEO, you probably set yourself up to rank in an LLM. And like how do you know what I mean though? Like I just don't get how anything is really different when it comes to organic recommendations. If anything, it just validates you should keep doing what you're doing on the SEO side. That's like this in a sense made the case. SEO is still really important and you still need to really like focus on it.
100%. And none of those like tactics are different than how you would optimize for Google. And I'm still baffled, and maybe I just don't know what I don't know here. Is Google and Bing, these other search engines, especially Google, are they cool with ChatGPT using their search results?
Dude, I
Right?
was just
What's the
going to
fuck's up with
say,
that?
I was literally just going to say one observation I had when looking at this was, wow, ChatGPT really relies on Google to figure out its answers. And what if Google just cut that off and like, hey, ChatGPT, you cannot scrape my results anymore? How the hell would they figure shit out on the internet?
They'd go to another search engine, maybe Bing, or build their own search engine. That's the only ways uh, to do it. And then this also brings up a question, right? Like, dude, if this is all true based on what we're seeing, that they do search Google, blah blah blah,
They definitely do.
um, they skip ads. Like, doesn't that gonna fuck up like our ad scores for clients because a lot of these impressions are just getting skipped over because it's bot traffic or agent traffic?
Totally.
You know, it's like, sorry, we're skipping you. We're just using this as a result, the trigger to come through. Like, how many impressions right now, Trevor, in your campaigns are rendered by this experience?
Probably, you know what I mean? A good 10, 20%, in that, if not more. No doubt about it. Like no doubt about it. Yeah, I would assume though Google probably like game theory this out of like, hey, if we were to do this, how would this pan out? And they probably thinking like, well, they would probably just use Bing or they would use DuckDuckGo or something else, and that potentially could help one of those other browsers, like
Uh,
performance, whatever. Like they would almost like force them into another browser and then maybe that browser partners with them a little bit more closely to figure out their algorithm and their search or whatever and improve their experience. And then also too, like, Google's really like got a report of like active users continued to go up every day, every month, every year. We get more session time, we get more searches, we get more queries, whatever. So they probably like, you know what, we might actually benefit in our numbers, like from ChatGPT and all of these other LLM and these agents going out. Like we actually want that traffic because it would probably look better for us. Similar to like the whole like when Elon was buying Twitter, how they basically were like, hey, the previous Twitter team, there was a huge bot problem, but they weren't incentivized to get rid of those bots because that showed more active daily users. Maybe
Right.
it's a similar position that Google's in.
Yeah, I'm not 100% sure, man. It just seems weird that if that's really the case, because if they're not doing Google searches, which I think they are, they said they were, other people have said they are, they're just pulling from their old database, but where'd they get their old database from? Just crawling the internet? How they crawl the internet? What fashion? Like, how do you prioritize the internet crawl? That's what a search engine is.
That's
Uh,
that's what I'm thinking is so insane to think about. Like if you think about like the internet, it's like how do you get around the internet? Google. Like for the most part, like how do you find different websites? How do you navigate through the internet? It's typically
yeah.
Google, which is like crazy the product that Google has built, you know?
Well, even the cost of crawling the internet, right? That's a huge expense that we're not paying Google to crawl my website and pay for that expense. Sometimes I wish you could if you're a really large website. But like they have to go crawl and store that shit somewhere
Yep.
in warehouses of database. So that's super big expensive. I don't know if ChatGPT would want to build their own search engine just because of that data
No,
storage.
100%.
It's like they're gonna run out of power. Like they don't have the resources to do that. So it's
And
really weird.
I read an article this morning that was talking about, just AI industry in general and how much power it eats and how the industry as a whole is just losing money because of that. Like the profitability has not surpassed the energy costs and cat's out of the bag now. There's no way like we're in a position 3 years from now, like AI is just killed because they couldn't figure out how to make it profitable and nobody could use it anymore. Like I feel like there's just no way people have used the experience now. They're never going to want to like give that up. But just how expensive that is, there's no way they're then going to then pay for data centers to then stand up their own crawlers to figure out their own search indexing. There's just I don't see how that would be possible.
Yeah, yeah, I don't know either.
I have no idea.
It
The other thing there
reminds.
too that I was going to mention is like going through this whole example of like, hey, if people are going to use LLMs more for their research and then, they're going to get some of their insights in an LLM. I think I mentioned this on a previous chat with you and a podcast here is I think if anything that puts more importance on like your brand keyword strategy and your competitor keyword strategy in Bing or Google. If people aren't going to do their research on Google and they're going to do the research on an LLM, a lot of those non-brand terms are out the window. So that means if people are going to get their answers on that on in an LLM and then go and search for a brand to then go directly to their website, you got to make sure that your brand's protected. I'm sure some other competitors are going to bid on your brand, so you're probably thinking about bidding on your own brand to protect it, and then vice versa. If competitor searches are going to improve across the board, you're probably going to want to get in their auction there as well. So it's almost like a last line of defense for your business would be brand keywords, competitor keywords. That way you're protecting your brand. And then if you weren't in that LLM result by bidding on another brand,
You
maybe
are,
that's
no
like your
way.
last ditch effort to then
Yeah.
get um, I don't know, in viewing of a potential customer.
There could be a really weird world out there where you don't get any more non-branded organic traffic and only branded traffic because all the non-branded queries are happening on LLMs. However, based on how it's set up currently, you still need to optimize for non-branded stuff in order
No
to rank
doubt.
and get there. It's fucking
No
wild.
doubt.
That also brings up a point too, though. Like if people are possibly doing more brand searches, Google your brand, see what shows up
Yep.
outside of paid. Look at organically. What the hell shows up? That gets into more of the reputation management side of things, which hasn't been as active in the last 5 years or so. But like, dude, you have a bad search result. What do you want to show in the top 10? You can cater that stuff or curate that stuff
Yeah.
by doing kind of reputation management, search engine optimization. Um, you can do that. Like, do you want all your social profiles to show up, or do you want your Forbes listing to show up because it's got investor stuff? There are things you can do to do that, but that brings up a good point. Like, dude, Google your brand. Like, what the hell shows up? Like,
Yeah.
you kind of need to be able to control that as much as you can.
And I've definitely seen that narrative on from other people sharing that stuff of how, like PR is going to be more important moving forward, which I totally could see. I think that's kind of valid, but I do think the whole like, hey, like we'll rank your brand in LLM, we're an LLM SEO shop, like that seems like snake oil to me. Like you got to be doing
Yeah.
best in class, you know, like what the best in class in SEO has historically been. Keep doing what you're doing there.
There's
I've never
always
seen anything different, from these signals that we just reviewed.
Yeah, and there's always going to be people that try to game the system, regardless of what you do, right? Is there some sort of cool hack I can do that could work? And there probably is. But how long will that stay? Is that an everlasting effort? That's where always I kind of go back to. It's like, well, you might get an initial pop, but then it falls off, and you don't want to build your house on or a bunch of cards, or whatever that saying is.
Yeah.
But I would say, like, for example, one of the things I saw even for our own website, I did see kind of like more of a spammier website that was doing some sort of like syndication feed. They were basically scraping one of the directories, republishing the rankings, and we were in the top 10. And the website wasn't super authoritative at all. But ChatGPT picked it up as a source. So in theory, you could put some bullshit out there on the web that doesn't even have a link back to you. Maybe your site's semi-authoritative. They see it, they would associate to it. I don't think it's that sophisticated yet to do that. So there are some kind of like spammier things you might be able to do. I don't know how that will do in the long run.
So you could spin up like some nonsense like, hey, top 10 whatever website with a page and link back to your site, and do that with a different couple brands across the.
Yeah, you could go out to like
Yeah.
a link building service or whatever, and just like, I don't want the link. Just write this post and give it to the publisher
Yeah.
and do a bunch of them. It's not going to hurt you from an SEO perspective, theoretically, because it's not like over optimizing your backlink profile. It's like kind of like a spam PR effort,
That's interesting.
that could happen. Or you go back down to like the PR syndication route. But then it's like AI is ingesting AI, and it's like, oh, that gets a little shady.
That gets a little
how
weird.
quality things are, because that I think is going to be the biggest challenge for any of these LLMs, is where they get new data from. That is actually, how do they harvest our brains? That's pretty much how do they get it. The internet's there, but where do we get the new stuff? Reddit.
So
where else? But that's all AI shit too now. It's like, where are they going to get it from? New books? I don't know. I don't know where they're going to get it from, Trevor.
So two quick things in response there that just made me think of that. The first being like, you posting certain things online that you want said about your brand. I saw Rand Fishkin make an interesting post a couple weeks ago of like how to rank your brand in LLM, or how to get more in those search results.
Oh, okay.
He said that he has like he found something interesting, and I forget like what the specific term was, but essentially he runs SparkToro, which is like an audience research type tool. And whenever he goes on like a podcast or gets interviewed or does like a collaboration blog or case study or whatever, he has like a paragraph that he sends everybody. So whenever that podcast goes live, it's always like Rand Fishkin, yada yada yada, founder of SparkToro, yada, like, so he has the same thing that goes around. And he kind of showed like when somebody searches for like specific keyword audience research tool, SparkToro is usually in there. And then he correlates, hey, I'm consistent with how my product and service is associated with like these other things. So I thought that was kind of interesting of like, that might be something to think about, to your point about some like these marketing directory sites and, some of these reviews and other things. Maybe there's some like niche pockets that you could find of like your example, investor relations websites for whatever companies, that could be something to think about of like, hey, if I'm going on a blog or if I'm going on a podcast or doing a blog or doing like whatever, being pretty specific about how they write about you and your service, I would assume probably is, somewhat important that you might not have thought about before.
Yeah, 100%. I think that's pretty valid. Yeah, Rand's on top of that for sure.
That I thought that was interesting. The other thing too that I was thinking about when you were talking that you just mentioned there is like what happens when you get to the point of the vast majority of content is created by AI, and like these Reddit posters and all these like other forum type pages are like all like AI responses and like spam nonsense, and then it's just like AI talking to AI and researching AI. I know we've talked about that in the past. I don't know if you saw Sam Altman's new company. It's not new company, but his
Oh, I
his
saw
eye
something
scanning
about it.
company.
Yeah.
So essentially, I forget the name of it. It launches WorldCoin, but I think it's called just World now,
Yeah.
right? So it's essentially like a product where you like look into like an orb thing and it like scans your eyes and then it's like, hey, this is Trevor Norton's eyes. And it's a way to verify that it's an actual human being. So I don't know like the long-term application if you're going to like log into your computer that way or whatever, but I think Sam was probably thinking through that of like longer term when there's AI creating all this AI shit and it's all these AI bots talking to everybody, how do you know who's a human? You know? So maybe there's a connection there. And I also know that there was a connection with like cryptocurrency, and that was essentially like connected to a crypto world coin, verify it's you for your like kind of wallet address and probably some other stuff. Um, but I don't know, maybe there's like a world where we live in where like whenever you publish something online or do something online, you're getting your eyeball scanned to be like, hey, this is a real human being doing this and not an AI.
How do they verify that though? Especially if it's So okay, here's a
I'm
couple things.
I'm not I'm throwing this out there right now. I'm not getting involved.
Yeah.
No.
Okay, so I
Dude, I'm
got
not getting my eyeball scanned and
a
getting in a Sam Altman database. I'm not
yeah.
getting involved there. I don't need
No,
WorldCoin.
no, for sure.
Give me
Okay,
Bitcoin. I don't need WorldCoin.
I got two ideas of where they're gonna get the fresh data, the fresh, steamy, lovely data. One is podcasts,
I
like
was
this,
literally just going to say that.
right? Because this is a conversation that we're having, publicly pushed out there, right? Think about how much podcasts out there, right? And those are real humans talking about things, context, the cadence, all that kind of stuff.
Until it's AI avatars and it's just like fake people on there. But
Right? So that gets to a point, right? The other one that gets really creepy. I wrote this down. Think of a world, Trevor. Will you have the opportunity to get paid for these LLMs to record your house, your phone? I have opted in my human presence to be used as a learning training model, completely anonymized, let me tell you. But you'll get a $10,000 check a month, $1,000 check a month. And that's the way you can get fresh data in with just
that's
normal human
fascinating.
interaction. Just opt in. Your Amazon Alexa that it's listening to you already, or your phone's already listening to you already. That's the other shady route. They're just already fucking ingesting it that way. But hey, there's an opt-in system. We're like, hey, no, man, record all my shit. Cool. Pay me for it. I am the product. Pay me for it.
That's have you heard that from somewhere else? Or you just like think about that yourself? Because I'm pretty
No,
impressed with that idea.
my brain just came up with it.
Dude, that's like actually really big time because I could totally see that being a thing. You know, especially too of like so many people would
We
do
should
that.
build a website and a brand that's all about it. That's all we offer. We don't have shit, but just sell it.
Oh my god, that's actually like a very interesting business right there. Yeah, I could
You
totally
heard
see
it
that
here
being a
first,
thing.
folks.
Plus, too, the pitch isn't even that like difficult. It's like, dude, your shit's already tracked through your phone and through Alexa. Like, it's already out there. Get paid for it. We'll pay you for it on the monthly basis. Get a check for it. It's already getting tracked anyway. Why not just get paid for it if it's going to happen? I could totally see that being a thing.
Yeah, I mean, that's the whole privacy out the window. Well, all right. Well, just get paid for it. I mean, I don't know who would do it, but I don't know. Yeah, just that's the only other way you're gonna able to get new content to feed the LLMs eventually, because the internet is going to be all recycled bullshit. Podcasts, which we talked about as the next way of doing it, that could theoretically go all AI generated. You can't verify it. And then maybe you got to use the World app, scan your eyeballs, and then it's like, hey, we're in the recording session now, just of real life, and then that's not tricked. It's verified human content. That's what we're gonna be a harvest, not for what was it in the Matrix? We were harvest for our electrical energy. We're gonna be harvest for just our thoughts. That's it.
Oh my God.
Welcome to the future, motherfucker.
That's so crazy.
Yeah.
But it's like not though at the same time. It's like really not when you actually like step back and think about like vast majority, everything's being listened to. Like everything's being recorded, everything's being listened to. You're just not being paid for it. Just being like transparent of, hey, like we're gonna do all this stuff and we're gonna pay you for it. I don't know. Maybe that's like a little bit less shady in that sense because you
Okay.
kind of know
Well,
what's happening and you're getting paid for it.
what about this one? It hasn't really taken off. Maybe it will take off, but is the whole virtual world, right? It starts to make me think about Ready Player One, right? You have an online environment that everybody's logged into, like Mr. Zuckerberg is doing, right, with his metaverse. If you play any metaverse games, like everything is audio. You don't have a keyboard you're chatting back and forth.
Yep.
So that kind of interaction in a digital environment of conversation, that's something they're probably already recording and have databases on of like, hey, can you give me like a training model on how people, interact and talk in a certain game or something like that? Maybe it's a poker game and as simple as
No
that.
doubt.
Maybe what topics are people talking about? What's the sentiment of this or that? Because it's all audio based. Yeah, a lot of people are on mute, but let's just say there's a world where that becomes like a normal thing. And it's like, hey, Trevor, I'm going to go play poker with you on, Poker Stars, throw on our stupid ass helmets, and we go in and we're talking about like just normal conversation, like, oh, how's the kids? How's this? How's that? It's already being recorded on your headset,
Yep.
so they'll ingest that to the model.
Talking about like that piece and then your point about like listening to everyday conversations and like that's a new way to get data. I mean, it sounds like they've had some really good Meta's had some really good success with the Ray-Ban glasses. Going in AI mode, that's real time. Like you're looking around your environment, you're probably picking up on conversations that other people are having.
There you
That's
go,
a
another
ton of
source.
data that Meta is pulling through right there. That is like a
I didn't opt
massive,
in for that
massive.
shit though. If someone's got Meta glasses, dude, I'm gonna slap them. Like, sir,
Yeah,
can you
right.
turn them off? Like, I don't want that. They look goofy as shit, anyways.
Just
But
the whole thing is just
anyway,
odd, but yeah.
yeah, dude, it is becoming. I don't know when that point is, but that data threshold for new information is it's gonna be a need. It is going to be a need.
Yep. And there's going to be so many like weird businesses that'll spur out of getting that data and how to do it and those types of things. It's like, yeah, I don't know. I don't know if like I feel like I come away from all of these conversations of like sounds kind of cool, but like is this positive for society? I don't really think so. Like I don't
Yeah,
know. It's kind of
this
like
is
Rogan always says. It's like we're like, you know, uh caterpillars that are like going through this change process that don't even realize it. And it's like, what are we even optimizing for? We're just like getting better tech. That's kind of how I feel with these conversations is like, it's some cool shit, probably some cool breakthroughs that we can get to. But like, maybe we do get to a point where it's like, yeah, I don't know if this is really positive for everybody, like, I don't know.
yeah, like yeah, for sure. It's positive right now.
I think we could like end it here because there's probably way more that we can get into, but this might go down as my favorite podcast that we've ever
Dude,
done.
what number is this?
Might be 50.
I'm pretty sure it is.
Yeah, it might be a 50
We
ball
didn't
here.
record last week. I'm pretty sure this is 50.
Yeah.
Halfway there. That's our goal, right? Is 100 of these things.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
So we are halfway there officially. So
This was a great one to do for number 50 too.
yeah. This is great. Awesome.
Well, folks, hopefully if you've got to this point, you're not freaked out. I don't know. Hey, we're all in it together,
Yeah, for sure. Well, thanks everybody for listening. Appreciate it.
Thanks, y'all. Till next week.